Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Captain Hunter's podcast, the podcast that is dedicated towards bridging the divide between the police and the communities that they serve. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And we're going to jump right into this particular set of videos that we're going to watch for today. So if anyone has been paying attention to the news and the so-called black porn that has been going on, what I mean by that is this seemingly never endless stream of videos, whether it's a dash cam or cell phone or a body worn camera videos that are being presented to the public that people have to FYI to see about, freedom of information requests and all that type of thing, public pressure in order to get these particular videos. This creates such a chasm and exacerbates the already tense relationship between the police and the communities that they serve, the public, the people. As Sir Robert Peel said back in the 1900s or so, the people are the police, and the police are the people, or the public rather. The public are the police, and the police are the public. And sometimes, unfortunately, we just don't exercise that as police officers. And I'm talking about the first line officers who are out there on the road, the first line supervisors, all the way to the top of the administration. So what am I talking about here? So we see now that this particular video occurred back in 2019. Ronald Greene. And let me give the caveat before I start off with this. I'm always disappointed when people are acting stupid and stupidly refusing to follow commands, pull over when requested to, drunk driving, or whatever he was accused of doing. Apparently this man, Ronald Greene, down in Louisiana, led police on a high-speed chase going at speeds of about 150 miles an hour. He may have been drunk or whatever. But of course, when they finally stop him, then he fights with the officers. He doesn't follow their commands. And by fight, I don't think he was throwing any punches, but just really refusing to show his hands, follow commands, and he ends up being tasered a number of times. I think the real question comes in is his actions, or the officer's actions, after he's taken into custody, handcuffed. Now, when I taught use of force, and I just for anyone who doesn't know, who hasn't followed this channel or whatever, I taught use of force. And when I was a use of force instructor, I dealt with and talked about people that we're trying to get to comply, right? We're on top of them, telling them to get their hands behind their back, and maybe give them a couple shots in the ribs, or pain compliance techniques and wrist manipulations, and trying to wrench their arms behind their back. You have to understand that it's intuitive. And I talked about this when I was an instructor. It's intuitive to people that they keep their hands in front of them. They're protecting themselves and their vital organs. It's a natural, biological, evolutionary defense mechanism. So, and it becomes even more difficult when we're on top of them, presenting body weight and telling them to get their hands behind their back. Physiologically and physically, they may not be able to do that. So that is something that really has to be brought out and really re-emphasized, particularly during these high adrenaline situations, after a high-speed chase, after you're already wrestling with someone, you're tasing this person. You don't know what he's reaching for in his waistband or underneath his body, if he's reaching for anything, or is he just doing this evolutionary type of protection of his vital organs. So it becomes very important that people understand this, and that they, by people I mean police officers, understand what's going on physically and physiologically with these particular people who are seemingly refusing to comply. Why are they not complying? Why is this guy not putting his hands behind his back? Is it me? Do I have too much body weight on this particular person? And then, of course, we don't know, as police officers, we don't know if they are reaching for something. And I fought with people who were going up and curling up and putting their hands in their waistbands and all that kind of stuff. Turns out they didn't have any guns, or they just were sometimes they did have weapons. I'm not, so officers have to be scared and all that kind of stuff, or should be concerned and have a heightened sense of awareness about them, that the person may actually be reaching for some type of weapon. So keep that in mind. So we see this man, Ronald Greene. Is it Ronald Greene? Yeah, I think it's Ronald Greene. Not following directions. Again, I just went over that. Have to ascertain and understand why somebody's not following directions. And so this happened in 2019. Public pressure from the family. They weren't getting any answers. And finally, the body cam was released a year later. It's actually 2 years later. It's 2021 now. 2 years later, after much public pressure, and now there's an internal investigation. Now there's press conferences. Now there's investigations. This is the problem that people are having with the police. We have this dash cam videos. No one wants to put it out. This is the problem people have with the administrations, not just police administrations, but public administrations, because obviously mayor's offices and town clerks and town offices and town halls don't want to pay this, don't want to pay, or state police. This is the state police, I believe, Louisiana State Police, who are engaged in all this. But they don't want to pay. They want to keep this stuff as quiet. They don't want riots. They don't want to pay up and all this kind of stuff. But this is what happens. So that's the biggest problem that I have from this particular set of videos. Is that it was just kept under hush for so long, and that's the biggest problem. You got to face things. You got to take things head on. So here we go. We're gonna play some of these videos here. I got this from the AP. So, oh wait, I can't make it big. Hold on a second.
I'm scared. I'm just scared. Get out of the car. I'm scared.
Mr. Greene was, to some degree, even though he had just finished leading police officers on a lengthy and high-speed chase, his inclination at that particular point was to acquiesce to what the officers wanted.
Let me see your hands. Put your hands behind your back, bitch. Give me your fucking hands. Put your hands behind your back. Taser. Put your hands behind your back. Behind your back. You're about to get it again if you don't put your fucking hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. I'm sorry.
What's problematic for me is that Mr. Greene is now left on the ground, on his stomach, handcuffed in a prone position. And officers are trained throughout the United States that once there's a struggle of this nature, and the individual's handcuffed, that you need to push him off.
Okay, so there's a use of force expert, and I was just about to say the same things that he's saying. So he's saying he's going to give up, but if we notice in the video, the officers are leaning on him. This is my own particular take on the case. The officers are leaning on him, and they're trying to get him to turn over. And as the use of force expert is detailing, and I would agree with that, is that there's another video we're going to show in a little bit, showing that once he's off, the officers are off of the individual. He then they leave him by himself. He's handcuffed, bleeding, and he's left alone for a little bit. And another officer sees him starting to curl up and starting to get off of his stomach, and then go into more of a fetal position on his side. For what? Why is he doing this? So he can breathe. Keep in mind that this is before George Floyd, but even before George Floyd, police officers talked about this as the use of force expert is saying, and which I am echoing. I taught it when I was instructing. Get off of these people, turn them on the side, set them up so they can breathe, and make sure you monitor them. And so this was not done.
Off onto his side, or get him in a sitting position so you can allow that breathing to be unimpeded by his own body weight.
Yes. So let me see here. So I want to talk a little bit more about another video here. Let's see. So here's a little bit more video.
I got. Okay. Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, get out of my hands. I'm scared. I'm your brother. I'm scared.
Okay, that's one of the videos when they're trying to get him out the car. This is obviously before, this particular video was before the previous video there. And so here's another video of them attempting to take him into custody. We'll play this.
Officer, get on the ground! Get on the ground! Taser, taser, taser. Push your hands behind your back. Behind your back.
Giving us a shot. Again, they're leaning on him, as you can see.
Hands behind your back.
Again, they're leaning on him. It's difficult. It's difficult. We, as officers, we got to understand what's happening here.
Oh, God damn it, get up here! Get that fucking arm! Motherfucker, you better not move. Got it? Blood all over. This guy ain't got fucking AIDS.
Another video. There's no video to this particular one. So for the audio out there, there's an officer, seems to be one of the, he's dressed a little bit differently. So I'm not exactly sure if this is a state trooper or maybe one of the city officers who come to his, comes to the other officer's aid. But just let me detail what's going on here in this particular video. So the officer is checking on Greene, who's laying down, and as I mentioned, he's trying to turn over to his side, and this officer comes and puts his foot on him, puts his foot right into his back, or into his buttocks, and make sure that he stays and lays right there on the ground, preventing him from turning over. I think there's another video on YouTube where you actually can hear what the officer's saying, and he's telling him, you stay right there on your stomach. You stay right there on his stomach. And here's another video, same video, where they're going to be dragging this individual. I think they're going to cuff him by his legs and they're going to drag him. Yeah, so they're dragging him right here. So officers, you know, we really have to watch this adrenaline dump, adrenaline rush, and that's what I mean by adrenaline dump. We really have to try to watch that. That type of situation to make sure that those things aren't going on within our own minds there. We really have to be very, 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 very careful as to what we allow and what we don't allow to happen and occur during these times and during these situations. You cannot become so involved, so angry that someone led you on a chase or they fought with you, that once the fight is over, that you forget that the fight is over. The fight's over. And this is what becomes abusive force, excessive force, and this is what it comes in at. I don't think there was a need to drag this guy, and there was no need to drag this guy into engage in what they were engaged in. There was no need to keep the guy on his side or on his stomach and tell him to stay on his stomach. I'm pretty sure that there's other YouTube videos where you can hear the other video that I was not able to get the audio from, according to this AP site, Associated Press site. So there is video out there with the audio showing where the officer was putting his foot into his butt, saying, stay there right there and stay on your stomach. It's not training. It's not proper training. You know, I have not been to the Louisiana State Police Academy. I've not reviewed their course material concerning the use of force, but I can almost guarantee, as the other as expert was saying, is that this is not taught. And we've understood this for years. I started teaching in 2003, so it was understood then. And it says, here we are, 2019. I started teaching use of force, that is. So, so those are those particular videos. So, listen, I think the biggest takeaway I have to take from this is transparency, transparency, transparency. So all these press conferences and all this deference and people being suspended and fired, it means nothing 2 years later. It means you were complicit in trying to cover things up, and I really wish, and I don't enjoy talking about this. I didn't want to always talk about these particular viral videos out there, but this is the problem, right? This is the problem. you know, here's I guess it's the 46-minute video, and as I'm reading some of this from the Associated Press, it says after a several minute stretch in which Greene is not seen on camera, he appears again limp, unresponsive, and bleeding from his head and face. He is then loaded onto an ambulance gurney, his arm cuffed to the bed rail. In many parts of the video, Greene is not on screen, and the trooper appears to be cut off the microphone about halfway through, making it difficult to piece together exactly what is happening at all times. At least 6 troopers were on the scene of the arrest, but not all had their body cameras on. I don't even understand that if they didn't have their body cameras on. I mean, if they were issued body cameras, they should have had them on. That's got to be addressed as well. It's got to be addressed, and nobody was standing by this guy watching him. Somebody has to be standing by this person watching him, watching exactly for him going unresponsive. And as I watch different news articles and news outlets as they report upon this, apparently when he got to the hospital, they tried to say that this guy, Greene, had been involved in some type of accident, and that's what they were trying to blame his death on. Meanwhile, the doctor states that this is unlikely because I see taser prongs in him. So they had to change their stories. So this is a really, really big problem. Really, really big problem. And transparency, honesty, integrity, police procedural justice, which leads to police legitimacy, is out the window in this particular case. In apologetic and deferent and press conferences 2 years later means nothing. So, and in our second video today that we're going to discuss, we're going to look at a case of a man, mentally disturbed man, Jamal Sutherland, down in South Carolina, Charleston County Sheriff's Office down in South Carolina, in which he was being escorted out of a cell forcibly. And he ends up dying later on. I'm going to be very honest. My initial analysis of this particular video is that the officers in this case did what they could and did everything right. Now, this is obviously a very short video, 2-3 minutes or so. So I'm not seeing everything that happened before. Certainly not seeing everything that happened. The medical attention that they showed, that they possibly gave to him, and or turning him on his side. Same thing. Just because you're in a correctional facility does not, correctional officers have the same and are under the same obligations to use the same amount of force that any peace officer is authorized to use. It's the force of the state, by state or government, city, county, or state police or federal agencies, all acting under these Tennessee versus Garner, Greene v. Connor, and all that kind of thing. So let's take a look at this video. It's a little bit long here, so we'll get going here.
Get down on the ground! Get down, Sutherland! Get down!
Control 37E, FMU, 37E, FMU,
Turn on your stomach! Turn on your stomach! Turn on your stomach! Hold on. Hey, you're gonna get another one! Come to the door! Slide to the door! Slide to the door! Get on your stomach, slide to the door! Stay on your stomach!
I can't stand up.
Stay on your stomach!
Slide.
Come to the door!
I got it. Slide. Keep sliding. Keep sliding. Keep sliding. Keep sliding. Come on, Sutherland. Keep going.
Keep coming!
Sutherland.
Keep moving!
Keep sliding.
No, stay down!
And slide. Stay down and slide. What's the meaning of this? What is it?
Keep coming! Keep coming!
Hey, turn on your stomach.
Turn on your stomach!
On your stomach.
Turn on your stomach!
Turn on your stomach.
For what? Turn on your stomach!
That's why I'm turning.
Keep going!
Oh, I'm doing good everything because we still got food. Oh, I'm turning. Just stop, I'm turning.
Do not resist!
I'm going to lift it off. Stop, you still got food in you.
Loosen up! Loosen up!
Oh, hey.
It's not clear if he started to resist or maybe tugged his hand away. I'm not exactly clear about that. So I know he says officer. We'll rewind a little bit here. He says officer, and then we hear the taser starts. I'm not exactly sure if he started to resist or pull away or something like that.
Loosen up. Loosen up, officer.
Again, as I detailed before, it's very difficult for people to put their hands behind their back in these situations because of physiologically what's going on. They want to protect themselves. He's obviously writhing in pain, being shocked. And so it's difficult for people to put their hands behind their back. I am curious as to why what the reason was that he start to pull away and they are just automatically start tasing him. So I don't have that information.
Stop! Get cuffs on. Get on the car.
Deputy Dawson, the deputy Farage.
That one. This individual obviously passed. What is continuing to be interesting about these particular cases is that, according to the Washington Post or New York Times, I think in the Washington Post, they had their knees. They being the officers, the deputies, had their knees in this individual's back for about 2 minutes. Even though he's cuffed, still struggling, you got to allow people to breathe. This is becoming a serious problem. The training is already there. I'm not going to say it's not there. It's already been there. The deputy, the sheriff in this particular county is saying we're going to look at more policies and procedures in order to change and to adjust how we deal with the mentally ill and those who are going through mental crisis and et cetera. So here, what I want the public to understand, particularly in the second case, is that I can't see these officers going to prison. I know that we want justice and we want our mentally ill to be taken care of. I don't know if that's going to happen in this particular case. I didn't see from anything on the video anything that was excessive. It's going to be a question whether the 2 minutes was excessive and whether they should have turned him on his side. That's going to be a question for the grand jury and or investigators to really ponder through and really try to understand. And that's where we're at. I know that a lot of times people are very, very dissatisfied when these types of incidents occur, and they should be, right? We want our loved ones to get the mental help that they need, or to be taken into custody in the case of the Greene incident, and without being brutalized by the officers. And I agree with that. But we got to understand that so that's where we're at as far as what I want the public to understand. And if you're an officer, deputy, corrections officer, et cetera, if you're watching this, once the person's in custody, turn them on their side. George Floyd, these particular incidents where this man, Sutherland, was kept down for 2 minutes. In the other case, we heard that he was on his, in Greene's case, that he was possibly on his stomach for about 9 minutes or so. When he tried to turn over to allow himself to breathe, an officer came up, put his foot in his butt, and prohibited him from turning over to his side. Unacceptable in both of those cases. Unacceptable. Particularly in the Greene case. The Sutherland case, 2 minutes may not be excessive. We got to understand what he was trying to do, what he's trying to get up. I'm also very curious as to why they initially started tasing him in the first place. So the video will be broken down by experts. Obviously, you're going to talk to all the witnesses and all the officers involved and all that. So I would not expect anything to happen with the South Carolina deputies. That's just my opinion. I think that the Louisiana situation, I think those officers have a serious problem, particularly the officers who either didn't have their video cameras on or one officer who turned it off. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. You should be immediately fired for turning off your camera. Anyway, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Much love and peace. If there's any other videos you want me to break down, I'm more than willing to do so. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.